Hello, BookTube. Well, here we both are, me and a very sleepy bean. We're here, and I am a little bit late because I'm all flustered. And I'm flustered for a reason that I'm going to manage to blame on Jared Henderson or someone because it's a long story. So, as you know, since you tuned into this channel, I have a bookcase that is reserved for work books. It is all of the paper review copies that I get, sorted by month. And the top shelf of that bookcase, the flat top shelf underneath the picture, is the current month. And that I separate by week, by release week, roughly speaking. And books can pile up there and things can be put in different places and all. I don't keep it in rigorous shape, but lately I've been walking by it with just a face of disgust because it just was horrible, just horrible shape. And every once in a while I would walk by it and I think, gee, I don't know why all of a sudden this is so bad. And then just now, just before I was about to come on the Stevestream, I looked at it and realized why it was so bad, because I have not switched over from September books to October books, even though it's the 4th of October. And the reason why I hadn't done that is the reason that is Jared's fault or Micah's fault or David Murphy's fault, which is that I like to do, or Sam's fault. Oh my God, it's Sam Sachs's fault before it's anybody's. I like to do that switch over between the last month's books and the new month's books and ordering the new month's books and putting the dates on them and assessing their reviewability and whatnot. I like to do that with somebody. I don't like to do that alone. And the only alternatives here would have been my surly houseboy, who has gone to some sort of rock and or roll concert, or the Bean, who is illiterate. So there was nobody. You okay? It's a Wednesday night, and Michael K. Vaughan decided that he had to go back home, and there's nobody else here to do it with me. So no wonder I was putting it off and not even thinking about it. And eventually, then I realized, okay, well, if you take control of this, and winnow out all the stuff that's not supposed to be here, and move all the October books up here and put them in order by release week, well, then it'll work itself out. Then it'll be just fine. And so I did that, and so I was late. I'm late from a whole day in which the whole of my inbox was trying to distract me from books and reading by either asking me about my new phone. One of you very kindly sent me an iPhone 11s or an 11 Pro with the 3 cameras there and the stainless steel perimeter. And it has been giving me, little issues here and there, as new phones will do. And a lot of people have been asking me questions about that and also bouncing ideas off me. One thing that I came to on my own, oddly enough, the one problem with this was that the audio on recording videos. I would record a video, a test video, play it back to myself, and it sounded absolutely awful. I mean, scratchy and like it was down deep in a well. No way even to do a test video of it. Just totally unacceptable. And then I thought outside the box while I was thinking about the problem and realized, well, that just might be the way the iPhone plays videos back to me. That might not be the way they sound if I upload them to YouTube. There might just be something wrong with the microphones spots for this thing. So I made a couple of test videos and uploaded them to YouTube and played them on my laptop, and there is no sound problem at all. So now that I've figured that out, now that I've solved that, I need a tripod. And then I'll start recording on this thing. That was one thing. And then everyone else in my inbox wanted to know about Kevin McCarthy being ousted as Speaker of the House by the Sedition Caucus, by the most open fascist traitors in the House of Representatives. Everybody wanted to know my opinions on that, including opinion piece writers that I have a feeling just don't know what to think of it on their own. I think it's pretty easy to know what to think about it, and I had to remind a couple of those people. I'm hoping that I see written proof that they understood what I was saying. I had to remind a couple of those people that the answer to this whole thing is Donald Trump. It's not Matt Gaetz. It's not the Sedition Caucus itself. It's not Jim Jordan. It's not how universally hated Kevin McCarthy is. It's Donald Trump. If somebody tells me that means that I have Trump derangement syndrome, or that's not true, or Trump's got enough on his mind, I have a very simple request, a request that will either prove me right or prove me wrong easily. Pull the phone records. They're not doing this by telepathy. He's talking to them on their phones. Pull the phone records for Marjorie Taylor Greene, Matt Gaetz, for pull the phone records for the people who are introducing this chaos. They're doing it at the direct behest of their leader, who is not in government. So I had to make that point over and over again. This is all because of Donald Trump. Uh, and why, you might say, some of these people, some of my friends were saying, well, that doesn't make any sense because Trump likes Kevin McCarthy. But Trump likes the vicious dictator of Russia a lot more. You cannot take or support or even be aligned with an anti-Russian policy of any kind without Trump working behind the scenes to get rid of you. He wants the United States government to be Russian government. That's all there is to it. But anyway, those two things were distracting me all day from reading and writing. When, of course, it's day 4 of Preptober, which means I should have been concentrating a lot on writing. Fortunately for me, unlike the rest of you, I have a whole other day coming before dawn comes up. I get to, once the Stevestream is over, I get to do a whole bunch of writing and emailing, and then a whole bunch of reading, and not really denting my day. So thankfully, I have a lot of time left to work on my current project. I have a lot of time left to plan and plot and prep for Murder in the Garden Pond, The Body in the Garden Pond. My NaNoWriMo project, The Body in the Garden Pond, requires a lot of prep. So I need to work on that tonight quite a bit. I need to get my places down. I need to figure out what the plot is and who's responsible. Do you get the impression when you read murder mysteries that the writer knows who the killer is before they start? Do you get the impression that's true? Or maybe I'm just being naive. I automatically assume that the writer must know that before they start the murder mystery. I once upon a time thought that murder mystery writers planned everything in exhaustive detail ahead of time. But then I read so many interviews with people, with major mystery writers, saying, "Oh no, I don't plan everything ahead of time." No, one mystery writer, I forget who it was, it might have been Ruth Rendell, said, "All I can hope for is that I stay one step ahead of the reader." What? You're supposed to be making the story. So I don't know if I'm supposed to do that or not. I am working right now on the cast of characters, because you've got what kind of a story you want to write, and then the world building, and then the plot, and then the characters, and you can mix and match those any way you like. And I figure my characters will help a lot in determining the plot. Uh, I I got a really good, or I think a really winning cast of characters, so we will see. We will see how that works. I'm hoping anyway. I can hope for the best, but I'm eager to see what you're all doing. So let's pop over to the chat and find out if you are taking my videos to heart when it comes to Preptober, because I'm not talking about some random vague YouTube audience. I want you all to join me for Preptober. I want you all to write a story in November with me. So anyway, let's see here. DT says, has Michael Lewis written a book on cryptos? His works are popular, but is he any good? His new book is on Sam Bankman-Fried, and it's revolting. I would say that it's the most revolting book of the season, but Walter Isaacson is the most revolting book of the season. So no, it's not. But it's the same kind of revolting. It's revolting in the same ways. Anyway, the Fantasy Network. Good Lord, let's get this show on the road. So the Fantasy Network was here early. That's wonderful. Kevin J. and Carnivore Diet. Steve, are you following Jordan Peterson now? Yes, I did the most clickbaity title that I could think of. Cryptocurrency and the Carnivore Diet. The Carnivore Diet, where you eat meat and only meat. Because that's the way your ancestors lived. And what's that you say? We know beyond any shadow of even the smallest doubt that no human ancestor ever lived that way. Well, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I'm talking about testosterone count. It's the birth rates. It's the birth rates. The birth rates. Georg Shoemaker or George Shoemaker. Hello, Steve. Good to see you. Good to see you too. Jared Henderson. Chop chop, Steve. I've got two T-bones on the grill and 10 PCs mining every coin I can. My time is yes, yes. Cryptocurrency and the carnivore diet, both obvious, stupid, Mountebank, end of civilization frauds that would not happen at any other time. James Rucala, hello, Steve. Hello, Vermin. Wait, does one count as Vermin until one is asked a have you read question? Oh, no. No, no, no. Well, actually, the newcomer is here. Keep in mind, the Fantasy Network is new. He has no idea what we're talking about. It derives from uh, a piece of testimony that I had firsthand from a totally reliable witness who was at a gathering, a small, informal, friendly gathering with a bunch of people and a couple of really big YouTubers at the time, booktubers at the time, who unironically called their subscribers vermin and got titters of approval from everyone around. They also considered the same thing. Absolutely don't look at the comments. Anyone who would be loser enough to subscribe, I just want their money. But they're losers. They're vermin. And it has become a term of affection here on Stevestream. Amorphous is responding to Jared Henderson. Like he doesn't get enough attention already. Hey, Jared, I love your content, man. You're one of the few booktubers that I watch religiously. Right here in my Stevestream, he says this. Michael Lombardo, just sitting down to watch your spell-breaking writing video and was notified of this. Yes, I did a video about breaking the spell of writing because there's no magic involved in writing. And when you think there is, even if you aren't really paying attention and you have to catch yourself, when you start to think there is, you start to offload responsibility for the whole process to something else. And that's bad. That's really bad. That puts you at the mercy of fantasies that don't have anything to do with your writing. Your writing's hard enough as it is. Monet Doyle says hello. Jared Henderson is responding to Amorphous. Thank you very much. Yeah, eyes on the prize. Okay. Gola Muad'Dib. Hi, Steve. How's your day been? My day has been fine. It's been fine. I tried filming 2 of my 3 videos today. I filmed on my iPad. There's a huge space underneath in the cabinet underneath the kitchen counter, and I kept hoping that it would clean itself, but it's not. And so I finally decided to just get down on the floor, open those doors, pull everything out, and clean. And my mantra whenever I do anything like that is throw away 80% of what you find. You haven't opened those doors in years, so 80% of what you find is conservative for what you throw away. And one of the things I found in there was a huge adjustable clamp-on iPad tripod. It's not a tripod. It doesn't have a solid thing. It's all like this, one of those posable wire things with a bracket at the top for an iPad. You can put it anywhere. You can clamp it onto anything. So I tried that today, and apparently it worked just fine. The iPad is from 2019. It probably has a better camera and better audio than any device that I was using. So I tried it, and it was easy. It was easy to do. So I tried that. That was one pleasant surprise. Another pleasant surprise was when I figured out that maybe the fact that the sound playback on this phone is bad means the speakers on this phone are bad, and that it's recording sound better than that. That it played on it. If I record something and play it on a different device, it'll play better. I tried that, and that does appear to be true. So I will when I get a tripod. I tried, and the iPad bracket does not work for a phone, not this size anyway. So when I get a tripod, I will try making videos on this phone, which has 256 gigs of storage. So even if I don't delete my videos, I'm not going to run out of room anytime soon. The only unpleasant discovery of the day, aside from the fact that somehow I had a brain fart and just ignored the changing of the guard for my new book section, aside from that, the only downside was that all of the weather forecasts were badly, badly wrong. And I noticed that none of the websites or apps have corrected themselves. They're all still saying that the daytime high temperature today in Boston was barely 80 degrees. It was 95 degrees. That's a huge difference to be off. And they're also reporting humidity around 69 or 70%. No, no, no. You don't have to be a specialist to go outside in the middle of the day. It was boiling hot today. So now I don't know what to make about the forecasts. I've been in unanimous agreement that the temperature is just going to steadily go down for the next 7 days. Now I don't know what to think. I am assuming that all bets are off and that tomorrow could be 95 too. But other than that, it's been a fine day. Michael Lombardo, if you get a USB microphone, it should record the improved audio directly to the video. Yes. Well, one very nice person has said that there is a microphone on the way to me. Somebody just bought a microphone. This would be the third one that one of you nice people has sent me, and the first two made things worse, not better. So I don't have my hopes up, but we will see. It doesn't so much matter to me now because the audio is fine on the iPhone 11 Pro. It just doesn't sound fine to me, but I don't play my own videos, so it's not going to matter to me as long as it's fine to you. And also, the iPad worked just fine. Filming on the iPad worked just fine. It's got plenty of storage left on it, so it's all just in search of the perfect solution, not the only one. Jasper Antonelli, MTG said the only speaker she'll support is Trump. So yes, she said the only speaker she'll support is Trump. Right. Not because she likes him, she hates him, but because she wants to be president, and she thinks that will be his vice president. That's all she thinks about. That's why she dogs his every step. That's why she hounds him like a stalker, because she wants to be vice president, figuring that will give her the incumbent's advantage, or that will give her right martial control over the eastern seacoast when he becomes whatever it is he wants to be. He does not want to be president. When he becomes whatever it is he wants to be, she believes she'll be second in command. She's an idiot. All the sedition caucus are idiots. That it would be worse in a way if any of them had any brains, but they're all really stupid, and she's the dumbest of the bunch. And so, I mean, she's surrounded only by flunkies and people who are afraid of her. So she doesn't ever hear from any normal people. Or if I were to ask her a question, the very first question I would want to ask her is, how did Donald Trump treat his last vice president? He was sitting in front of the 18-inch screen TV in the West Wing, chanting "Hang Mike Pence." But anyway, Michael Lombardo. But there is never a problem hearing you during live streams. I know, very strange. Aaron says good evening. James Rucala, Trump likes McCarthy. Where did you go? Oh my god! Look at all these comments. Okay, I have lost that comment completely. There you are. Trump likes McCarthy is hilarious. Trump likes nothing and no one. Jared Henderson says, I filled 4 pages of my legal pad with notes for the novel. Every time I write, I think, wow, Steve would be proud. Oh, well, yes. Steve would be proud. In a limited way, Steve would be proud. Jared Henderson, murder mystery. What happened to the science fiction novel? Science fiction novel? I'm quite sure I don't know what you mean. The Body in the Garden Pond is the NaNoWriMo project. It's Inspector Inskeep, who is a star. He's older. He's very charismatic. He's always on TV. He gives a great face to Scotland Yard in an era that is not friendly to police. He is their ultimate PR weapon. He's legendary at solving crimes and whatnot. And what the world doesn't know is that his sergeant, a young woman named Sergeant Taylor, is the brains. She's the one who actually solves things. And when a body is found on the property of the Duke and Duchess of Hampshire down on the coast, Inskeep is sent, and Taylor goes along. And what I don't know yet is the Duke and Duchess are at home, but they're innocent. They're stunned, but they're not guilty. I'm sure it's not them. But what I don't know right now is I'm kind of sort of toying with the idea that Inskeep and Taylor get there. They start to investigate, and then I come up with some reason that Taylor has to go, that she has to go back to London, or maybe there's a family emergency, and he can't very well say, well, no, I need her to solve the crime, because all the fame is his. So he has to be there and solve it on his own. That, if I did that, that would make it a comedy more than a mystery, or it'd make it a comic mystery. And I'm not sure that I'm able to do a mystery, much less a comic mystery. So I don't know. I don't know whether or not I'll have that happen. I don't know. What I need to know is whether or not I need to know who the villain is. Monet Doyle, I'm reading a book by Candy Steiner. Candy with a K. I wish my name were Candy with a K. Gola Muad'Dib, I wrote yesterday and today. Excellent. Jasper Antonelli, I only eat yak testicles. Good for the colon. I know. I've watched some of these scam artists. It's unbelievable. It's just unbelievable. especially when they get all bro sciencey and say, the carnivore diet comports with our ancestors. You want to live the way our ancestors did. Get rid of all this modern junk. When Okay, take a look at your canine teeth in the mirror the next time you go to the bathroom. Humans have never been carnivores, never, and that is unquestionably true. Just that is beyond a shadow of a doubt. And also, the carnivore diet people are so obvious. They are so obvious. The carnivore diet, when they tout it, is not about what you eat. It's about making slaves of women. That's all it is. When they talk about, our ancestors in purer days, that's what they mean. I don't have to listen to the yakety yak of a woman. I can belt her, and the men who run the laws will simply applaud me. They want Sharia. That's what they want. They don't mean that 7,000 years ago humans ate only meat. They mean 7,000 years ago men. They think men like them had all kinds of slaves, the brown and black ones, and also the female ones. It isn't true. It isn't what they would have been like back then. They would have been slaves too, but it's just so obvious that it's a social thing and not a dietary thing. Uh, Martin says, "Hello, I'm roasting an onion." Oh, that sounds good. Tom Jode, BTC, and organ meats. Jasper Antonelli, did you get transported back to the Middle Ages, Martin? What's the matter, baby bean? You want to come down here, baby? Oh, sweet. Oh, there you go. There's my baby. Oh. Ravens fan 1961. Hello, Steve. I did the carnivore diet years ago and lost lots of weight, but it isn't sustainable. I'm not living my entire life without bread, rice, and pasta. It's not sustainable. It's also badly unhealthy. Ryan, hi, Steve. Finished War and Peace today. He ends with an essay. I feel a little empty. Did like the ones on bees and ants. I've every time War and Peace has come up on the Stevestreams or on my channel, I've always wanted to warn people. I always forget to warn people of that. That yes, Tolstoy, you shouldn't read the essay at the end. He ends the book with an essay, a long essay, and it shouldn't be there, and you don't need to feel compelled to read it. It's not part of War and Peace, as far as I'm concerned. Tidides, do you have any book recommendations on inventions and discoveries through the history and what that meant for human life and civilization, et cetera, et cetera? I'd like to read something like this very much. Okay, well, that's a gigantically broad topic, and the Stevestreams are not really the place for book recommendations. I would certainly recommend, I don't know if it's available, but a book by James Burke called Connections, which is also a TV show. I'd be willing to bet that every episode of Connections is on YouTube for free, and it's wonderful. He wrote a couple of sequels to it, and it is all about technology and how it affects life. Connections, the original series, was amazing. I watched it as it was coming out and could not believe how good it was. Funny, but also incredibly informative. And the final episode, oh my, I should check to see if the final episode of Connections is on YouTube. The final episode it's eerie to watch it now. James Burke was a science writer. He was a science communicator. He was also a bit of a futurian, like Tom Scott. He was very comfortable at living, at extrapolating how the future would be. And in that final episode of Connections, he is almost able to imagine the internet. It's what he's clearly talking about. He just doesn't know it. It's eerie to do, eerie to watch and realize that. I mean, I watched the first time and I had no idea what he was talking about. I love the message of the final episode where he says that with a proper amount of grounding, you have the potential to understand anything technological. And if you don't, you will be ruled by people who do. Carl Sagan was making the same point at the same time. I love that message, but I remember watching that episode and thinking, okay, I don't know what it is that he's sort of piecemeal pulling together here in his imagination. And then the second time I watched it, the internet existed, and then I realized. Anyway, the Spaminator is here. As someone who survives exclusively on spam and whiskey, you are gone. Oh my God! Right. Oh, here we go. I can say the carnivore diet has changed my life. Tom Jode, actually, the 80-10-10 fruitarian diet makes you feel the healthiest. Do I know what a fruitarian diet is? I don't know. I'm not sure that I know what the 80-10-10 is. Is the 80 a reference to Mega Stuff Oreos? Ryan, have you tried Preptober currency? J. Scott Phillips, I'm pirating time at the office for this Stevestream, and it's about cryptocurrency. How do I explain this one to my clients? Simply have them watch. I'm assuming you're not hogging the Stevestream to yourself. You should let everybody know. Who was it that that said that they were once watching uh, the beginning of a Stevestream at the library, at their school library, and one of the librarians was watching over their shoulder and said, "Oh, is it starting?" and ran off to their office to watch as well. I forget who that was. Uh, uh, let's see here. Steve, how do you have a book title before the draft of a novel? I can't name mine for the life of me. Oh, I can't do without. I can't do without. I need not only a working title, but a good one. It might not be the final title, although I have an aptitude for titles, so it usually is. But I cannot call it, current work, science fiction novel. I cannot do that. I have to feel like I'm working on something, and those kinds of titles are not something. They are clearly placeholders. It doesn't. You don't have to finish. You don't have to come up with the best title, but some sort of working title. Oh my, that is absolutely necessary for me. It's absolutely necessary. Monet Doyle, what is cryptocurrency? You sweet innocent thing. It was designed by scam artists as a kind of a way to circumvent banks. What if we were to create an ecosystem of value for tender, so you can pay and be paid, that was not based on the actual monetary currency of any country, and that was not monitored by any bank? If you think about that for a minute, you can just guess how it went. Let's see here. Street Medic says that sounds interesting, but I don't know what you're referring to. A.W. Shubar, crypto, carnivore, and cleaning out your closets and embracing minimalism. This is going to be an epic stream, dude, bro. I wasn't. I have a closet that I mean to clean out. It's an absolute mess, and it is now free. It is now navigable. There's nothing in front of it, so I have access to it all the time. Oh, what have we here? Look at your fans, baby. Ooh, these are pretty cool. Ooh, your little boopable nose. I just haven't done it. I haven't cleaned out that closet. It's the kind of thing also that I would like to do with someone. Let's see here. God, there are lots of comments. Goodness gracious. Michael Lombardo, is there a Democrat equivalent to Matt Gaetz who could rock the boat for a Biden nomination next August? Anyone who tries will be. I'm really hoping. I mean, I don't know how this is going to go. Kevin McCarthy was fired because he made even a nominal bit of cooperation with the Democrats, because the Sedition Caucus is so tribal that Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert, for the minutes that she's left in Congress, Matt Gaetz, they would gladly kill their Democratic opponents. Gladly, they would. They talk about how Democrats are killing Republicans, but it's just projection. They want to do it themselves. And Democrats don't. It's just the fascists that want to kill their opponents. And they are all thinking in millenarian terms. All of them are. They are 100% betting on a change of times, on the end times arriving. They are 100% betting on never having to be accountable for any of the things they're doing now, because the world will be different. So I can act the way that I'm acting. I can plant pipe bombs at the Capitol, because the time is soon coming when there won't be any mechanism for accountability, so I won't have to worry about it. What's the matter, baby? Oh, what's the matter? Come here. Come up here, Frida. Come. Oh, goodness gracious, she's being very squirrely. Anyway, Ryan is responding to Taididi. DT, how will Canada survive should the democracy in the United States stumble? Mexico has a lot more to worry about than Canada, but both of you have a lot to worry about. This is what I always say to smug friends of mine who always message me from either Holland or France. Seems to be endemic in both places. They smug me, message me from both places and say, "Boy, you sure are screwed up in America, huh? It's pretty bad." I always respond to them calmly, politely, by telling them, this is not Uruguay. Okay? This is the United States of America. If we turn fascist, you're all in danger. All of you are. And when my friends scoff, I say, well, okay, you in Holland there below sea level, you love your bike culture. Get on your bicycle and see how long it takes you to bike to the nearest multi-million-dollar U.S. military installation. I guarantee you, you won't be tired by the time you get there. Same thing in France. Those would be under the control of Donald Trump and his children. They would be under the control of those people, direct control of those people. Anyway, Gholam Muad'Dib, yeah, let's go back to the good old days when there was no medicine to cure the common cold and you were wide awake for any kind of surgery. A lot of the carnivore diet scam artists, these grifters, will say things like that. They'll say, I go to the dentist, but I refuse anesthesia. I refuse Novocaine. Like our ancestors did. They don't go to the hospital. They don't use any kind of shampoo or cleaning on their skin or hair. No deodorant, no toothpaste, no nothing like that. It's ridiculous. And they have people buying into it. They have young men between the ages of 18 and 35 buying into it because those young men are so aimless that they'll take any direction. And they're also so insecure that they'll especially espouse any view that allows them to punch somebody weaker than themselves. And like I said, the carnivore diet is entirely a social movement. It is about enslaving women. That's the old days that they're all referring to. They never say it, but that's what they mean. The merest 2 seconds on Google would tell you that the good old days of humans does not involve only eating meat. They know that already. When they're being wistful-eyed for the good old days, it's when men could punch their wives, and when wives couldn't divorce their husbands. The slightly more articulate members of this same grifter circuit are the ones who are campaigning all day long, every day against no-fault divorce, specifically for that reason. Because how dare a woman have a right to talk about whether or not she wants to stay in a relationship? Anyway, Street Medic Connections is my top 3 best documentary series of all time. Number 1 is Ascent. Number 2, Civilization by Kenneth Clark. Street Medic, I very much like your list, but you are leaving out The Civil War by Ken Burns, and you must not. You're also leaving out Life on Earth by David Attenborough. So you need to make room on that list there. Street Medic, I'm watching it in an ambulance, hoping no one calls 911. If they do, simply hand the poor sufferer your phone playing the Stevestream, and they will be perfectly happy. Copper, a stream about cryptocurrency. Does that mean I can't ask about your thoughts on Dude Bro books? They're very similar subjects. Gholam Muad'Dib, I'm continuing to write my sci-fi story. A sci-fi story for NaNoWriMo? What an idea. J. Scott Phillips, I explained to my clients that the Stevestream is also about carnivore diet. Now I'm off the hook. yes, it's all the rage. Seaver Brunstein, my FB feed has been sending me things like tribal people slitting the throats of live toads, filling them with duck embryos, tying them all up, cooking them, eating with gusto. Now that's carnivore. It's ridiculous. And, what is inevitably going to happen sometime in the next 6 months is that one of them is going to die from the garbage that they're eating on camera, and that will be hushed up. It will be that they did it wrong or that they weren't masculine enough. A.W. Shubar, Trump's running for president, vice president, and Speaker of the House. Well, it's a joke, yes, but actually, in his mind, yes. He is not running for president of the United States in the sense that anyone in the United States understands that term. He's not running for that office. Obviously, he's not. Obviously, he's not running for elected office. He thinks that all elections are rigged. He doesn't believe in votes. He's running to run the country. And he has a huge number of people around him who now have a very sharp, clear view of the mistakes they made in 2020. They know exactly how to get around those mistakes, to fix those mistakes. We wouldn't have to be worried about it at all if the country had jailed Donald Trump for orchestrating and launching an armed insurrection against the government, or if they had shot him for that. If the United States government had done that, plenty of provisions for both in the Constitution, then we wouldn't be having this conversation. It's only possible with him. But we are, because he is still a free man. He's able to foment rebellion even now. But anyway, Aaron, I spent too much time several years ago debating on forums with adherents of various fad diets, mostly paleo. Humans are omnivores and capable of adapting to a wide range of diets. DT, is NN Teleb Dude Bro. Also, how do you like his books? Is he a good writer? He's a fairly good writer. I suspect him of being a dude bro. Yes. I've never looked at his social media feeds. It's a surefire way to tell. The vegan heretic. I'm not even going to comment on diet. How was your day, Steve? My day was pretty good. It was pretty good. I tried a new experiment with filming videos. I filmed 2 out of my 3 videos. I didn't want to do all 3. You don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. I filmed 2 of my 3 videos on my iPad, and so far, no complaints whatsoever. In a normal situation, when I film something on a new device, I usually wait for the comments to roll in, either in my inbox or in the comments on that video, saying, "Oh no, this doesn't work. We're glad that you're experimenting, but this doesn't work. The X is off, the Y is off." No one has said that so far about the videos that I made today. So it could be that I have another alternative to filming, which would be great. Filming on the iPad, uploading on the iPad, titling things, adding all the doohickeys. That was easy on the iPad, just simple. So that would be great if that was a discovery of the day. And also, there's the iPhone 11 Pro, which I think will work just fine for filming videos. Uh, let's see here, Mac. Is there a reason you won't give the answer to? Okay, Mac, stop asking about my theories on who Jack the Ripper is. Stop coming into every chat and asking that question. Okay, I've been joking about it all this time. Now I'm asking you directly to stop doing that. And now I'm asking you to stop bringing up this subject. Stop asking me who I think was Jack the Ripper. Stop asking that question. Ryan, we have never seen Jack the Ripper and Steve in the same room together. Mac, nope, where'd you go? Street Medic. The Civil War and Life on Earth actually round out my top 5. Didn't have enough space to list them all. Frida, do you want to come up here? Why are you just standing there? She's just standing there, staring blankly into space. I know she's not feeling all that good with her lady problems, but Frida, come here. Come on, baby. Come up here. Come on. Come up here. Come on, you can do it. Come on, up you go. Come on. You can do it. Come on. Just one jump. There you go. Good, very good. All right, just take it easy, baby. Here, let's open this window for you. There you go. Sorry for the bean drama here. Let's see here. Aaron, any best of list of documentaries should include Free to Choose. First part of each episode is Friedman illuminating a point, and the second is him debate with several people. Fantastic series. It's a good series, but Life on Earth level good. Mac says, "Have you ever been to Mecca?" I have. Street Medic, just curious, what is the worst book you've ever read? The Love Letter by Kathleen Sheen. Ryan, Steve, we are all waiting for a food for thought moment. It hasn't happened. I haven't been editing my mail hauls. It hasn't happened. We've been doing mail hauls every day like it was 2014 and without any problems at all. I mean, I'm determined to go through with live mail hauls anyway, even if there are problems, but there haven't even been. I haven't had to try any food for thought. Michael Lombardo, so interesting you mentioned that BBC programming appeared in my feed about the Yorkshire Ripper. So engrossing, I watched in one sitting. Recommended. Max says, obviously a cover-up. I don't know what that's. Jasper Antonelli, decided to start reading The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, loving it. A while ago, I tried studying Scarlet and got heavily bogged down in the Mormon stretch. Yes, the Mormon stretch deserves the same kind of warning level as the Custom House at the beginning of The Scarlet Letter by Nathaniel Hawthorne, or the huge essay at the end of War and Peace, or the Cetology chapters in Moby Dick. All of these things should have warning labels on them, I think. I worry about how many people they turn away who don't ever come to me for advice. Jasper Antonelli, eagerly awaiting more of your Victober videos. I didn't make one today because not only was I sort of bouncing back and forth between technology, and that felt a little awkward, but also I worry about flooding the zone with Victorian videos when I'm not sure how the hosts of Victober would take it. And also, it was boiling hot. It was 95 degrees. And I wasn't ready for that. I'd already acclimated Hyde Cottage for a decrease in temperature. And then it was boiling hot and incredibly humid all day. So I didn't end up making a Victober video today. I'll make one tomorrow. J. Scott Phillips, I shoot my own videos on my iPad and use a cheap tripod to clamp it to. Very convenient. Are you using tripod for yours or one of MKV's patented coat racks? No, I found it's not a tripod. It's a long thing, but it looks like a plumber's snake. There's a clamp on one end that you can clamp to anything, and then a bracket all the way on the other end. It's probably 5 feet long. It's really heavy duty, kind of cable that you can position in any way that you want for to put it anywhere. And I found it. I must have bought it at some point. I don't remember it, but I found it in a cabinet underneath the kitchen sink when I was cleaning the cabinet. So I thought, why not try it out? And it worked just fine. Uh, Matt Sheridan, greetings, greetings. Ryan says the live mail hauls really are fun. Most of us don't get books mailed to us every day, or we do, but have an Amazon problem. Well, that was my thought when I was hitting one, DEI CRT piece of bullcrap after another, and not uploading the videos. My first thought was just a sweeping dismissal. All right, well, this isn't going to work anymore, so don't do it anymore. But then I thought, no, part of the fun of all this is that they get to, your imaginary booktube friends don't get tons of books in the mail all day long. So, that it's a nice thing to share with them. It's fun to share it with them, in addition to giving them a heads up towards something that they might want to know about. So it bothered me that I was going to have to drop that feature, but maybe not. A.W. Shibar, I've got my nano idea. Got to start plotting now. Yes, well, I have to examine the Hampshire coast. I have to come up with, the Duke and Duchess of Hampshire. I have to come up with their names, what their lives were like. I have to come up with where they live. The murder mystery is called The Body in the Garden Pond, but what garden and where? They have Hantesfield Grange, but also Hantesfield House and Hantesfield Castle. They have a lot of property on the south coast of England, and I don't know. I haven't figured out what they're like. I kind of decided that they're innocent, but I don't know if even that's true. I have to decide what they're like, though, and where the body is found, and is it, for instance, was the body found in a garden pond of a property that's open to the public 2 or 3 days a week? Was it found at a time when the public could have put the body there? I don't know. I have to work up all of that. Graveyard Shift. Hi, Steve. Monet Doyle. What is going on with McDonald's cheeseburgers? They don't put anything on them. Well, I wouldn't know. I know one thing that they put. I know two things they put on McDonald's cheeseburgers. I know that beyond a shadow of a doubt. They put meat and cheese on there. Both the meat and the cheese gets to the cheeseburger through torture. Horrible, prolonged torture. So I don't know if they're putting less of those things on there, but I know those things that get there that way. J. Scott Phillips, do we get warning labels on this stream for cryptocurrency discussion? Well, I haven't really discussed cryptocurrency much. Don't indulge in it would be one way to do that. I know that flies in the face of all the dude bros that are out there. You see them, whether it's Nick Topo or no matter who it is, whether it's a fitness influencer or a gaming streamer or whatnot. In the background, there's the patented stereotypical 3 big computer screens at kind of angles to each other, with the varying market lines on it. And these guys go on forums or on discussion panels and just toss off, I made $1 million today. I don't think you did. I don't think you did. You made somebody's idea of $1 million. You didn't make $1 million. Kevin J.N. Holly by Stephen King. Is torture as a reviewer to have an author you do not enjoy being so prolific? Is that proof we're part of the Matrix? I keep waiting for him to write a book that I like. Every once in a while, he'll write a little bit of something that I kind of sort of like, but and for a little while, when he does that, I will tell myself, all right, well, maybe this is turning a corner. He's 90, but maybe he's turning a corner. But Holly certainly didn't do it. I'm amazed, just amazed at the press that book has got. And Fairy Tale before it. It's like some switch has been flicked, and all of a sudden, every respectable review journal in the entire Western world now thinks it's okay to write 800 words. Have somebody write 800 serious words on Stephen King, like he wasn't writing junk, self-evident junk. No, some switch has been flicked, and now we can include him in our list of of serious pieces that are going to get edited, are going to be 900 words long. Jasper Antonelli, it's not that the writing about the Mormon wasn't beautifully done, but it definitely had me tapping my foot impatiently. It shouldn't be there. It's ridiculous. It shouldn't be there. Other books called me away. His short stories seem much more energetic. Jason Smith, what does dude bro even mean? Does it make me a dude bro by reading Pynchon or McCarthy? What about DFW? Oh yeah, it makes you. I was going to say no, it doesn't necessarily, but then you use the abbreviation. There shouldn't be a stigma about reading authors outside the orthodoxy. We should do better. Do I strike you as the type that would stigmatize reading authors outside the orthodoxy? I'm talking about not reading. Dude bro reading is not reading. It's video games. It's the part of your brain that is stimulated by dude bro reading is not stimulated by other reading. And if you do a lot of dude bro reading, if you're a typical dude bro reader, then you no longer even remember that because you don't do any other reading. You couldn't read a Henry James novel if your life depended on it. You couldn't do it. Those parts of your reading brain have atrophied because you want the ping, the ping, the ping, the ping, the ping, and the sexism. Not you specifically, but dude bros. Uh, I would hope that in addition to Pynchon and McCarthy and DFW, you would read other people. I would hope that you do that. Brandon H. Steve, do you like McCammon's Matthew Corbett novels? Not particularly. Some of them, bits and pieces. I don't love McCammon the way his fans really do. I love some. I like some of his books quite a bit, but a Street Medic. One more question: David Suchet or Kenneth Branagh as Hercule? Oh, you've got to be kidding. Hercule Poirot does not have a Kurt Russell style gigantic mustache. He does not have that. He does not have that. That is Kenneth Branagh saying, well, this seems like fun, and having only yes people and toadies around him, no one to say, no, it doesn't, Sir Kenneth. Definitely don't do that. No, David Suchet, absolutely. If you have to make me pick over Albert Finney, which I don't really want to do, but I guess. Fit to be read. Steve, what are your favorite Aliens Attack novels? Oh, off the top of my head, I do. Gust Front. Gust Front by John Ringo. James McCullough, what happens first, food or for thought or Stevestream that wraps up at 10 past the hour? Well, this one should wrap up at 10 past the hour. I mainly just want to check in on you all, that's all. And find out what you're doing for NaNoWriMo. I've heard precious little along those lines. Leo Percara, hello, Steve. Book pilled, recommended Tanith Lee in his new video. Did you like her books? Also, isn't that sci-fi corner of BookTube better than the fantasy one? Do you know they exist? I do know they exist. I have made an extensive study in 2023 of the fantasy corner of BookTube, and I haven't paid as much attention to the science fiction one. I should find out who's out there, everybody that's out there, and see if I can worm my way into these little communities. Matt Sheridan, I should be reading Joyce's Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man for class. I'd rather be on here. Oh, well, you should. But I didn't answer, Leo Percara, I didn't answer your question. I don't particularly like Tanith Lee. No. Graveyard Shift. This carnivore diet thing reminds me a lot of pro-Anna mindset. Well, yeah, there's in any fin to sickle, in any society that is ending, that is winding down, that is preparing to metamorphose, wild, silly beliefs like this, practices like this proliferate. And there's an argument to be made. I think there's some truth to the argument that they proliferate out of a wayward religious instinct that is no longer institutionalized. There's no longer a strong institutionalized repressive religion, but the instinct is still there, so people fill it with whatever they can. Manifest your destinies, obviously. Manifesting packs in $1 million conferences every year in a dozen different locations. It's all explicitly prayer. That's what, no one says it, no one calls it that, but that's exactly what it is. And you see that everywhere. You see people talking about manifesting good luck everywhere. That's prayer. That is a fugitive religious belief that has been unmoored from its social religion, from the state religion. Typically that happens when a society is old and ailing and is about to change. And usually the change is bad. Because one of the things that the repressive fascist autocracy that is always the thing waiting to come in wants to impose is a strong state church. The Sedition Caucus, to a person, wants a repressive Christian theocracy here in America. To an individual, they do. So you get rid of the fugitive beliefs. You get rid of the rampant belief in astrology or the manifest your destiny or the carnivore diet or whatever, because you have reinstituted a savagely repressive state religion. It's not a win at all. Uh, but anyway, let's see here. Steve Bronstein, can you explain Michael Savage's motivation for continuing with his act? His son is a multi-billionaire, and even if he doesn't have access to that money, he's rich himself. Why does he keep doing it? It's a grift. It doesn't matter how transparent it is. This is we are seeing in the 21st century is the triumph of people who have realized just how many stupid people make up any population. It's a gigantic number. Gigantic. I used to know somebody decades ago who used to tell me that just routinely over wine and calzones. He'd just routinely say, the one thing that you don't see is how many stupid people are out there in the world and how stupid they are. Because you strain for that, because you strain that out, because you mostly associate with people who aren't, you have no idea how many people there are. I didn't believe it. 21st century has made me believe it. I mean, a candidate runs for office, runs for president of the United States, and the main tenet of his stump speech is, if you elect me, I will take away your health care. And people screamed approval. Anyway, Michael Lombardo, is there an anthology of Victorian mysteries or thrillers like a Whitman sampler of authors? There is, isn't there? There are a few. I thought there was a really big Victorian mystery anthology. Is it a big book? No, it wouldn't have been a big book. Oh my, I don't remember. There are a couple. Yeah, I won't remember them off the top of my head. DT, what do you think of Burton's Anatomy of Melancholy? I like it. I liked it a lot more before the Dude Bros found it. That's for sure. DT, I've never. Wait. Where'd you go? Let's see here. Oh my God. Okay. I've never. Oh, here you go. I've never seen it on any must required reading list because doesn't belong on a must required reading list. It's long and it exudes a kind of musky masculinity, and that's the reason people talk about it. That's the reason for the two editors of the New York Review of Books who pushed through that classy reprint of it. Otherwise, they would not have reprinted it. It's not read by women. It's not enjoyed by women. It's not read by normal male readers. It's only Dude Bro. It's become kind of a Dude Bro Bible, although they don't read it because it's too long. Anyway, but it doesn't belong on any of those lists. It has no literary value. Anyway, Mac, do you like Bible scholar James Kugel? I do very much. Wish that I could find. I had forever a really heavily annotated copy of his The Bible as It Was, and I got rid of it, and somehow, or gave it away, or something like that. And usually, it shows up at the Brattle all the time. It hasn't shown up recently. I definitely want a copy of that, and that's one that I would like in an actual physical copy because the naked hardcover was so nice. Jasper Antonelli. I have to write a book review for my History of East Asia class. I choose to read the Makioka sisters. Oh my. Oh really? And it's not a book report, it's a book review? You have to write a book review for your class? How's that gonna go? Oh my. Imagine writing a book review of the Makioka sisters. How much space do you have? Matt Sheridan, Steve, random World War II question. Why did Hitler declare war on the United States? It was such a stupid move on his part. Yes, it was. It comes from being surrounded by toadies. Only two of whom, in the outer rings of his inner circle, the outer rings of his inner circle, said, "Please don't do that. That is a big mistake. Don't do that." He did it because he thought this is just another bastion of Jewry, and I want to attack them all, and I am invincible. And maybe out of an idea that it won't matter, that it was just a declaration on paper because, America is far away and embroiled in its own problems, and, it won't have much of an impact on the war as far as I'm concerned. Maybe that too, but yeah, I agree. It was an absolutely stupid move. DT, how do you like Tauntaun? Is the Spielberg movie better than the comic? Well, it's not better than the comic. No, even I can see the comic's appeal, even though all things French tend to elude me. It's not. The movie's not better than that. The movie's kind of interesting. Jasper Antonelli, he was on meth 80% of the time. You're responding to Matt Sheridan. No idea what that's about. Is that about Hitler? Matt Sheridan, for my Irish literature course, we are covering Joyce for 60% of the class, and it's infuriating. That is infuriating. That is infuriating. That's got to be the teacher, just loving Joyce. There's so many other people to read. So many. Do you have an option in that class to sort of, can you go to the professor and say, look, can I do, I went in classes when I was eons ago, when I was an undergraduate, I always went to the professor. If I saw some crap like that, or even if I didn't, even if the class was just normal, but I knew that I had to keep pace with Clem Cadiddlehopper in the back of the classroom, who's barely able to tie his own shoes, I would go up to the professor after the first or second class and I would say, is there any way that we could work out an independent study? I'll make it as rigorous as you want, that would allow me to bypass this, because in your case, for instance, I would go to the professor and say, I don't want to read 60% James Joyce here. Is there a way that I could do an independent study here? You can set it up. I'll propose the idea. You can set up the strictures, anything you want, and I'll do it. And if I fail, well, you can count me absent for all the days that I'm not here, but this is a waste of my time. Some of them, most of my professors, when I did that, were amenable. You might give it a try rather than reading all that Joyce. Stephen Bronstein, I'm not sure if American cheese that's on the fast food burgers actually has any dairy in it. It's more of a cheese-like substance, as Anthony Bourdain described the cheese in an In-N-Out burger. Might be true. Might be true. They might have found some sort of skimming or compacting process that is cheaper, but it's definitely not non-dairy. Everything between the buns, except for the vegetables, is coming to you by means of torture. Not just death, but torture. Protracted torture. Anyway, Matt Sheridan, Holly seemed like a mean-spirited piece of work. Mean-spirited, yeah. Fragmentary, lazy. Oh my God! I mean, this is a lazy author anyway. But oh my God, just the kind of laziness you get when you know you're writing about a fan favorite. Oh my God, that's when you work harder, not less. Michael Lombardo, cryptocurrency adjacent question. Did you get a screener for Dumb Money? No, I did not. No, I did not. I have a whole zip file of screeners I haven't even opened yet. It could be in there, but I doubt it. I doubt it. Not that it would matter, because all I'm watching is Godzilla over and over and over again. The DT, are there comparable or better books to Tintin that are great boys literature? Thinking of a gift for a young man this Thanksgiving. Well, I would definitely, I would try a whole bunch of things. Like, for instance, get a big collection of Calvin and Hobbes. Or if you can find one, a big collection of the old Sunday cartoon comic Prince Valiant, which is terrific for boys. And there are probably, I'm leaving things out, I know. Calvin and Hobbes and Prince Valiant are pretty surefire hits, depending on the age of the boy. You also might want to try a big collection of Hellboy by Mike Mignola. A lot of text there, a lot of reading, but boy, oh boy, is it cool. It's so much fun. That might work. I know the people where that has worked. Matt Sheridan, Pynchon is definitely not dude bro. Okay, I'm glad you said that, because, for convenience, for convenience sake, I was sort of throwing out a big blanket there, but you're absolutely right. Pynchon is not dude bro. It was the abbreviation of David Foster Wallace's name that really set me. But you're right. Pynchon is definitely not dude bro. You're right about that. Fantasy Network is back. Fantasy Network is back, but I've still not been on your show. I want to be on your show, or maybe have you on my channel. We could do a 40-minute Zoom discussion. My viewers love that. I don't know if I mean, you're a high priest in the fantasy world. Are you allowed? Are you allowed to go off world? Is it going to be a transgression along the lines of Jessica affronting the Bene Gesserit? Can you talk a bit about your review process and things you look for? Things I look for in a book. Well, it's mainly things I look for the absence of. The number one thing that bothers me in a book of any kind is condescension. Entitlement and condescension. Hence my disgust for most of what Stephen King writes. I hate entitlement and condescension. If you are a writer, I don't care what you're writing. If you are a writer, you are begging, hat in hand. You are going up to your reader like that. Please, sir, may I have some more? Just that. You're asking for their time, their attention, and their money. All three of those are in permanently short supply for everybody I know. And you're asking for all of those things. So if you write your book and I encounter complacency and condescension, it's going to infuriate me. Infuriate me. Now, if you do that, usually in 2023, if a writer's book is loaded with condescension and complacency, it will also be extremely incompetent. And generally speaking, if a book is extremely incompetent, I will leave it alone. I won't review it at all. I have a number of friends, a couple of friends in the Washington Post in particular, who bemoan that fact whenever they're here. They bemoan the fact that I tend to leave alone the low hanging fruit. And the reason they bemoan it, I understand. The reason they bemoan it is because when I go after low hanging fruit, that is usually when I'm at my funniest. And there are very, very few book reviews being written by anybody today that are funny or ever could be. So they like that, but I tend not to do it. Complacency and condescension incense me and make me want to write a review. But if it's matched with incompetence tends to make me want to just leave it alone. I shouldn't, because it's still got a price tag on it, and the general reader who's harried for time and might be bamboozled by current book copy, they might be fooled into reading something, and they would very much benefit from someone telling them this is incompetent, you shouldn't. But those are things I look for, the absence of those things. And then, as far as presence goes, there's that particular thing. I've never been able to come up with a particular description for it other than it's the thing that sets the short hairs on your skin up. It's that electric charge when you're reading something. That sense of this is on. This is absolutely on. It's not just showing up. It's on. That feeling, I know you felt it. It's what every reader has felt it. It's what keeps us coming back to reading. It's the thing we want to recapture when we're reading. We spend our whole lifetime looking for that feeling, that kind of taken out of yourself, missing bus stop feeling. I look for that, very much look for that, because so many authors, whether it's with bad intentions because they just don't feel like they need to bother, or with the best of intentions where they get bogged down in the minutia of their book and forget that their primary job is to entertain. Their primary job is to at least try to make those hairs stand on end. You did a video just the other day, that great video. You said you're going to take it down. I hope you don't. It was wonderful. It was heartfelt. I learned so much about your community on BookTube from the comments on that video. What a community you have. Instead of the unwashed losers that I have. But in that video, you talked at one point about exactly what I'm talking about. You talked about Philip Chase's second book. And I'd be willing to bet that if you and I talked about it, we would agree that it was very competently done. It was very smoothly done. It was professionally done. I think the nub of what you were criticizing it for is that it didn't have that. It didn't have that spark. It never made you feel that way. I commend you for being honest enough to be so straightforward with the book of a friend of yours. Philip strikes me as the type who would want that from his friends. But even so, a lot of people wouldn't do it. But that's what I look for. I look for the author being present on the page with a twinkle in his eye. And I say his, obviously, because women can't write. Just to head that off at the pass. I'm working off 2,000 years of the impersonal pronoun being his. That's all. Anyway. That's what I look for. I look for that spark. That means it's a real book. That means it's not just the author showing up and punching a time clock. That's what I want. I think those books are the ones that deserve reviews, even if that spark is in a bad book. That still means it deserves a review. That means the author did me the honor of being present, of trying his best, of trying to work in magic, that word that I was condemning in my video today. And then once, as to the process, for me, the process is age old. Oh my God, I've done it a million times. I read through the book, in kind of a vacuum cleaner way for the demotics of what I need to know. What is this thing? If it's a novel, for instance, what is the plot? What is the main subplot? Who are the characters? What's their relationship to each other? I know that's very quotidian, but I've got to know that for a review. I've got to know that. And then another step back to, okay, how is this done? Is it well done? What are its weak spots? And then a step further back to that, as regardless of how it was done, how did it make me feel to read? And then I just work that in all together and throw in a little of what an old friend of mine referred to as borscht belt humor. DT, speaking of Tauntaun, how do you like Karl Barks's Donald Duck and Scrooge DuckTales comics? Very popular in Europe. Never understood the Disney comics. Never understood funny animal comics at all. I want superheroes. I want someone from Krypton. Matt Sheridan, I just picked up How the Word is Passed by Clint Smith at the Strand bookstore tonight. You'll find it very good, very interesting. That was a rough review for me, because I think the author plays dirty pool a lot in that book. It's a good book. But talk about an example of what I just said, where that spark is there, but that doesn't save a book. That doesn't automatically make a book good. There's a lot of dirty pool in that book. There's a lot of what I would call race baiting. I was not allowed to call it that in my review. In fact, that was the closest that the editor, I forget who it was, but that was the closest I've ever come to arguing with an editor in the 21st century. Was, she was saying, can we tone this down? And I was saying, I'd rather not. I never say that to editors. Never. I never say I'd rather not. My answer to editors is sure, go ahead. But that is a case where if I ever get off my duff and actually publish a collection of book reviews, the review of How the Word is Passed, I'm blurbed on the book, I think. But the review that is in the book will be very different from the one that actually ran in the paper. And although I envy you going to the Strand. I haven't been to the Strand in years. I want to go back. A.W. Shobar, you're talking about Frida and her monthly women thing. What kind of dude bro stream is this one? It's a thing we have to go through. Some months better than others. It's the beginning of the month. Usually it's the first week of the month, and it gets her down a little. She isn't feeling all the best. She can shrug it off easily, but it's not that big of a problem. The Fantasy Network. What's your opinion of Pillars of the Earth? Just read it and didn't enjoy it much. Yes, I saw you talking about it, saying at one point mentioning, be sure to tell people, well, I wasn't expecting this to be so grim. And just the next morning, I watched that video, and just the next morning at the Brattle, on the sale cart, there was a beautiful, ornate reissue hardcover of Pillars of the Earth. I have it as an ebook. I would never want the hardcover's too big. It's just too. I like reading on a tablet. I just do. I'm sorry, or on a Kindle. I don't. If I have a choice, I'm just not going to bother anymore with lugging around a big, heavy book. But I really like it. Really, really like it. I also like the relationship that it has with the sequel, with the next book. Before Follett completely knew that this was going to be a series, there's a kind of inverse relate. I would love to talk to him about the relationship between those two books, because the Pillars of the Earth, you've got these plots and these people, and in the background of the whole story, something immense is being built. Something immense is getting bigger and bigger organically. And in the next book, you've got these plots and these people and all this foreground action, and in the background, something is being torn down. The Black Plague is. It's wonderful contrast between the two. I think that Pillars of the Earth is really good, really effective. But I got the impression from your video that one of the reasons that you didn't like it, maybe, was that you were reading it at the wrong time in your own life. If that's not too forward of me, I got the distinct impression that was true, and that maybe at another time you would have liked it a lot more. I didn't get the impression that you were just writing it off, so maybe you'll read it again. Aaron says, I supplement my McCarthy, Pynchon, and DFW with James Elroy, currently gnawing on a raw steak. Well, you can't supplement DFW with Elroy this year, because Elroy's book, his new book, is not good. But usually, yes, absolutely, yes. When people hear me go on and on about Dude Bro Lit and say, "Oh, you just don't," there's a whole strata of things that you don't like, and it's easy to tell what that is. They're always dumbfounded by James Elroy, by the fact that I think The Cold 6000 is a brilliant book. They're always dumbfounded by that, because on the surface it looks like it's doing exactly the same thing that Cormac McCarthy does. And all I want to say to them, I always do say that to them, That's only on the surface. If you stop living on the surface, you might find you like the depths. Uh, Michael Lombardo, checked my local library yesterday. No Pynchon on the shelves, but they do have Jerusalem by Moore, a chonker. Yeah, well worth your time if you can do it. If you can manage it, it's well worth your time. Matt Sheridan, speaking of Pynchon, this summer I read Mason and Dixon, and it's easily become one of my favorite books. It's wonderful. It is my favorite Pynchon book. I know that it's probably not technically better than Gravity's Rainbow, and I don't think it's technically better than Against the Day. I actually believe that in 100 years, the literary establishment, the standard, if there's literature that isn't Trump books, uh, if there's literature in 100 years, I firmly believe that Against the Day will be considered his masterpiece. People will say, "Did you know that in the early part of the 21st century, it was actually Gravity's Rainbow that was more highly esteemed?" Can you imagine? I believe they will say that, but it doesn't matter. Mason Dixon is just talk about having fun. It's just so much better for me. I love it so much more. I'm due for a reread. I have it as an ebook. Maybe I'll just do that. I keep waiting for a nice that rough hewn hardcover or trade paperback. I keep waiting to find that at the shop. Uh, let's see here. Street Medic. I agree. Suchet as Poirot and Jeremy Brett as Sherlock Holmes. Yes, and don't forget Joan Hickson as Miss Marple. We were spoiled. We were really, really spoiled in the early '90s. We did not know. Oh, well, some of us did that we were seeing epical, absolutely yardstick portrayals of these three most famous detectives. Jared Henderson, I'm no longer writing a science fiction novel. Now I'm writing a cozy murder mystery, The Killer in the Koi Pond. That sounds awful similar to The Body in the Garden Pond. NaNoWriMo plagiarism. Uh, Aaron, Steve, did you just invoke the strong make good times meme in regard to the carnivore net? Yes, I did. And you caught it. So we're both guilty. Kevin J.N., interview a former Navy SEAL. Dude bros love getting views that way. It would put you over 15K. I don't want to get over 15K. I don't want that to happen. We are now well on our way. And I've been saying for a year, we're never going to get there. Do you have any idea how much crow I'm going to have to eat if we do? I don't want to do that. I don't want to interview a former Navy SEAL at all. I might interview a former Marine. That would be fun. I wouldn't mind interviewing, for instance, Jesse Dollimore. I don't know what that would be like. It wouldn't have anything to do with books. I don't think he reads. Where would he find the time? I'd like to do more interviews just in general. I meant 6 months ago, I said I was going to get on the ball with that for 2023. Every publicist asked me. Every one of them does. And I have a whole body of interviews to show them. It's not like they have to go on a flyer. I just don't do it. I just do. Mac says, "Why are you so doubtful about?" Wait, where did you go? What am I doubtful about, Mac? It's about Jack the Ripper. I'm going to smack you. What? What am I doubtful about? Let's go and find you. Where are you? What am I doubtful about? Sorry, where is this here? Oh my God, look at all these comments. Well, we'll get to them all. Why are you so doubtful about the historical Jesus? Because there's no proof. That tends to inculcate doubt. There's no proof for the historical Jesus that doesn't come from a body of literature that views him as the son of the Almighty God. Inherently untrustworthy. That is inherently untrustworthy. If I say there is no proof for the historical Jesus, and you open your Yap, and I say that isn't the Bible, your Yap slowly closes again because there isn't anything after that. He's not attested to. He's not a historical figure, and there's nothing historical about him. It is impossible to extricate the Jesus in the stories from the guy who does magic. Well, people don't do magic. That is not historical. So he is not a character in history. So yeah, I very much doubt. Jasper Antonelli, The Big Book of Victorian Mysteries by Otto Pezzo. Does that exist? Is that the one I'm thinking of? I automatically thought about Otto Pezzo, and I thought, okay, but is there such a thing? And if that exists, then that's the book I'm thinking of, definitely. If it doesn't exist, it should exist. Fit to be read. I'm still at around page 250 of Gravity's Rainbow months later. Well, I haven't asked you yet if you've got to the scene I'm talking about. There is one particular scene around where you are that Pynchon intentionally designed it to make people stop reading. Where he sort of thought, I only want the real people past this point, the people who are committed to this book. and I know just the way to get rid of the ones who aren't. but you'd know, you'd be mentioning it. Uh, J. Nicole, do authors with their stories either consciously or unconsciously sublimate their own problems through writing? If they're any good, they do. What's the point of writing otherwise? Jason Smith is responding to Aaron. So you don't have any questions for me. All right, Brandon H. There's some speculation that the GOP will try to make Trump Speaker of the House. How would that affect his chances of sliding into the Oval Office again? He could leave. They could make him Speaker pro tem. Then if then he could leave. He could, accept the presidency. It's against their own rules for this Congress. Their rule is that if you are facing felony charges, more than 2 years of jail time, and as the False Hope commentariat on Twitter will tell you, Trump is facing 5 million years of prison time. That's their own rule. They could ignore it. They ignore their own rules all the time. But Speaker of the House is a real job. You've got stuff to do, and you've got particular times when you have to do that stuff. And Trump's time is not his own. He's in the middle of 4 felony trials. His time is not his own. Those come first. You can't say to the judge who's overseeing the trial of you stealing highly sensitive nuclear secrets in order to fence them to Saudi Arabia. You can't tell that judge, well, I can't make my next mandated court appearance because I've got to bang the gavel in Congress. You can tell the judge that, but he'll arrest you. So, I mean, the Sedition Caucus is nuts, and they worship him. He's a god to them. So they might do it. It wouldn't affect the Oval Office at all, because he could leave at any time he wants. If they make him Speaker pro tem, he could just walk away. But I think it would lose every swing state Republican in the country their next election, because it would prove that they are as if anybody needs any proof. It would absolutely prove that they are fundamentally not serious. That they fundamentally should not ever be elected to any kind of power if they do that. And I think there are enough Republicans in Congress who get that, so they probably wouldn't do it. Let's see here. Jasper Antonelli, yes, a book review for Makioka. He was very specific because some students don't know the difference between a book review and a book report. No, they don't. What a fascinating discussion. What a fascinating assignment. I have to at least get 3 pages in. All right, so you're writing a London review. You're writing a New York review of books review. Okay. But nevertheless, you better not make it. You cannot make it either a book report or a term paper. You're writing a book review. You're on exactly my territory, which means you have to make it a book review. You have to treat it as a new release in the bookstore. What is it doing? Never mind that it's taught in schools. Never mind that there are all sorts of academy lectures about it. You're treating it as a brand new release. So you have to look at everything that Tanizaki did before it. You have to mention the things that he did before it. Is he already a best-selling author? You're free to do that. That kind of research you can do. So you need to look up, you need to research where the Makioka sisters came in his career. Is this an author whose name is already known to the reader? Because as a book reviewer, you are legitimately obliged to talk about that a little. You are at least legitimately obliged to know that, so that you don't sound like a fool talking about how I just found this Faulkner guy. You need to know that. You need to know where he was in the market. And maybe what themes in the Makioka sisters are carried over from other books. Does he have any obsessions as a writer? But then you have to assess him just as a writer without his historical baggage. Oh my, what an assignment. Applaud your teacher for me. Tell him that a battle-scarred old book reviewer very much approves. Oh, he's going to get so many book reports. He's going to have to explain that a million times a day. You know what he ought to do? He ought to set up a screen at the front of the class for a Zoom chat with yours truly about what the differences are between a book report and a book review. I would be happy to do that. Everyone would be entertained. That would be so much fun. And I could do a better job clarifying it than he could. Aaron is responding to Jason Smith. Aaron is still responding to Jason Smith. And still, a Tex Gore. Hey, Steve, what's your favorite wine grape with calzones? I agree with CJ Craig. It's wine. You drink it. I go to the wine shop down the street and get the cheapest dry red wine that there is. Just give me a dry red wine. I don't care about what it is, what grapes it comes from, what its name is. I want a rain barrel full of it. That's what I want. That I want quantity. Uh, Matt Sheridan, I was thinking about raising my hand and asking him to avoid it. We're going to read some of Ulysses and Finnegan's Wake. I should be teaching it. Okay, I think that's about your class. Michael Lombardo says McDonald's cheese equals Soylent Yellow. Well, okay, but even if it does, the meat still comes from living people. Uh, Jason Smith is responding to Aaron. Matt Sheridan, I'm going to recommend some Frank O'Connor. Yeah, some Frank O'Connor, some Flann O'Brien, some Elizabeth Bowen. There are a million people you could name. Imagine wasting all that time on Ulysses and Finnegan's Wake. Just Matt Sheridan or that novel Cal seems interesting. Oh my God, Bernard McCaverly. He is so good. Cal is so good as a novel, as a thin little thing. It is so good. It is so brutal, but it is so good. You could even get The Gays in by At Swim Two Boys. That's also a terrific book. Uh, let's see here. Andrew Salisbury, book recommendation for the French Revolution. Is that a question? Are you putting a coin in a machine? Matt Sheridan, the professor doesn't give any work. He loves to hear himself talk. Oh my God. One of those. One thing I can't stand is somebody who loves to hear himself talk. A graveyard shift. Used to have two good friends of my own age in their 20s who actually invested in Dogecoin thinking someday they'd hit it big. I just smiled and laughed along. Yeah. Yeah. What's even funnier for me are the ones who just blithely mention in a live stream or video game streaming or whatever. They'll just blithely mention, I made $1 million this morning. No, you didn't. You live in your mother's basement. You didn't make $1 million. Brandon H. My reading journey started with Calvin and Hobbes. Well, wow, how wonderful! That's not a bad way to start. I'll never forget. I'll remember as long as I live the lump I had in my throat in that final cartoon. I knew that it was ending. I'd already read it in the papers, but something about getting the Sunday comics and opening it and getting to that final one. I still have it. I cut it out and saved it. I should have framed it. Oh, when they go sledding off, let's go exploring. Calvin and Hobbes go sledding off on just a long panel of pure white. Oh, just a lump. I mean, on the one hand, I was really going to miss it, and on the other hand, I really appreciate a good ending whenever anything ends well, even if I love it. Yes, I'm not going to get any more of it, but it's a great ending. At least it doesn't just peter out. Street Medic. I have a few, not all, Prince Valiant books. They are awesome. They are indeed awesome. I believe they would still work on a young boy. Aaron, great book for a boy is Beowulf. Great retelling of Beowulf, written in verse, fully illustrated about kids raising hell. Don't think I know it. Matt Sheridan, thank God I'm reading Jane Eyre in my other class. The Fantasy Network. I wanted to have you on next Friday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern if you're interested. But we haven't even talked. We don't know how it would work. What if we're incompatible with each other? What if we get 20 minutes in and all of a sudden, I'd be happy to do it, but what are we going to talk about? What are the parameters? Oh, for Pete's sake, we haven't even spoken. I'd gladly do it, but surely we should email at least. Be nice. Jasper Antonelli, I wonder what most of your audience studies/studied in college. I assume you studied history, Steve. I lived history. Shoemaker is responding to Andrew Salisbury. Matt Sheridan says, do you think King's fans are aware that his work has a lot of misogyny in it? I would say that 40% of them are not aware, and that 60% of them are aware and approve. Colombian Thunder, cryptocurrency, carnivore diet. Can we include the Wim Hof method for a side stoicism? You thought, yeah, stoicism should come up. It's the only thing that doesn't. It's the third leg of that tripod. Aaron, Steve, do you recall my hopefully funny review of Dean Wesley Smith's Star Trek novel? I emailed it to you. I hope you enjoyed it. I do not remember it, but I might not have opened it unless you. I mean, I might not have read it, but I'm not recalling it at the moment. No. Jason is responding to Fit to Be Read. Andrew Salisbury is responding to Shoemaker. Street Medic, yay! We're going to post that has a little free library. Sorry, kids, daddy needs something to do. A post? Is that a call? You're responding to a call that has a little free library? How would you even know? Fantasy Network. Yeah, that's very fair. And I am fortunate for the people who have supported me slash channel. And thank you. I don't know what that's referring to. Was I accidentally fair about something? That's a house soiling. Francisco. Hi, Steve. I don't know if you've mentioned it before, but I'd love to know what your NaNoWriMo project is about. At least a hint would be great. It's a mystery. It's called The Body in the Garden Pond. It takes place on the south shore of England, where a body is found on a stately home down there in that is in the possession of the Duke and Duchess of Hampshire. And they are actually in residence when it happens. But I'm right now thinking they're innocent. And Scotland Yard sends Inspector Inskeep, he's an older figure. He's got the classic Hollywood good looks, and he's got a great closure rate. He is a darling of the media. He's on talk shows, conservative and liberal, because he gives a good, approachable face to Scotland Yard, to the police. He's a great PR catch for them, and he has a great record. So he goes to solve this thing with Sergeant Taylor, his faithful aide, who is the one who actually solves the mysteries. Inskeep is kind of dumb. He's just hidden that from the world. And they go and solve. There's another murder soon after they get there. And the only thing one of the main things I'm trying to decide here is I'm tempted to set that up as the premise and then have something happen that means Sergeant Taylor has to leave. And Inskeep suddenly has to solve the thing on his own. I don't know whether or not I want to do that, because that would make it a comedy. And I don't know that I want to do a mystery comedy. Comedies tend to be time consuming. DT says, isn't Taleb condescending? He is. Michael Lombardo, Smoke Signals was waiting in the mailbox today. Would they consider you reviewing the next book to film adaptation? Well, let's, okay. I'm glad you got it. I haven't got mine yet. I hope I do tomorrow. That would be great. But let's make sure that we understand, would they consider you reviewing the next book to film adaptation? I am the editor of the book section. My editor-in-chief gives me a completely free hand. There are no restrictions put on me whatsoever. If I wanted to do that, I could. It's not like, would they consider it? No, I took the job under a certain set of conditions, and one of them was that there can't be any interference. As long as I am professional, there can't be any interference with, this you have to do or this you can't do. And they've been very good about that. So I could do that, but I wouldn't. I wouldn't do that. Good God, no! I have only 2 pages. I am faced with the same dilemma as other book section editors, except there aren't many left in the world. I have no space. There's no way I'm going to dig up some book that's been, it's the latest Ryan Gosling movie and write about that when I have new releases to write about. The Fantasy Network. The sex scene with the angel at the beginning lost me in the Pillars of the Earth. Well, yeah, okay. All right. But there's a scene right before that. Isn't there a scene right before that that should have carried you through, that was so good? Maybe it was right after it. Maybe you didn't get that. Fantasy Network. Oh, yeah, I also was so caught off guard by the content. I'll try it again one day for sure. Oh, good. Hold on to it. I think ordinarily when people say, yeah, no, this just wasn't for me, I respect that because I feel it myself all the time. But I got the impression in that video that if you had come across it at a different time, in a different mind frame, different things going on in your life, you might not have disliked it. You might have liked it a lot more. Steven Bronstein, what do you think of Obama as a writer? I like him as a writer. Francisco says, also, I'd like to thank you so much for recommending Oblomov. I am completely immersed in it, and I'm enjoying it immensely. Can't thank you enough. Oh, that's good. Oblomov's terrific. Let's see here. Colin, hey, Steve, I just got through the first chapter of Son of the Morning Star, found it a bit impenetrable. I'm willing to keep going, but was curious if the later chapters become more accessible. Okay. Well, let's back up a little there, Hoss. Because impenetrable is one of those reviewer words that I use all the time, and even I don't know what it means. Connell's prose is great. So you can't be talking about that. That can't be the kind of impenetrable that you're talking about. So is it the subject matter? Is it that you're wondering, when we get to anything that we're going to get to? Or No, the thing about, I mean, Son of the Morning Star is like this helix structure, or rather a spiral structure. It's constantly revolving around the 20 minutes of the Battle of Little Bighorn, and that is radiating out along the spiral. But and occasionally you are at, period, you are close to the center of that spiral. But that's the structure of the book. It's very much not a straightforward narrative, but it's beautifully done. I'm worried to hear that you should forge on. Absolutely, you should forge on. Martin S., where did you go? Where did you go? Oh my God, where did you go? Where to start with Henry James? Keep hearing he's boring. Boring, I don't know if that's the right word, but Henry James's career is split into two halves. And the thing in the middle is when he got an amanuensis, when he got someone so he could dictate his novels and didn't have to write them himself anymore. Suddenly, when that happens, they become gigantic baggy monsters. They're still incredibly intelligent and often eloquent. There are a couple of novels in that post period that I like. But where to start with Henry James? I say indisputably the Aspirin Papers. Start there. Or What Maisie Knew. Start with a small, short, controlled work. That will give you all the sense of his viewpoint and also his vocabulary, the sense of pacing. Those things will give you that. And once you've got that, you'll know whether or not you really like him. If you really like him, you'll follow him everywhere, because the things you really like about James don't change from the beginning period to the end period. Michael Lombardo and Rowan Atkinson as Maigret. I was thinking of the guy, John Thaw, played Inspector Morse, right? That was another low-key great performance every time. Andrew Salisbury, I'm a former Marine, but not famous. Aaron says you should interview a few Squeakcore authors and turn it into an intervention. No, no. The only unlikely interviews that I would do on my channel, I would interview Jack Edwards. Definitely, he'd never do it, but I would definitely do that. What an experience! What a roller coaster ride for a kid. But anyway, DT, does Robert E. Howard's Conan have that spark for you? How does it come across for you? Some of them do. Not all of his stories. I firmly believe that oh my God, reading the essential Robert E. Howard Conan stories, 10 stories, let's say, will give you a perfect example of what I'm talking about, because you can tell in a minute the ones that have it versus the ones that don't. You can feel it in a minute. But I believe that you can feel it all over. I think it's easy to tell. That's why it's so easy for me to recommend good and bad books, because I go by that spark. I go by that more than anything else. You can tell when the author shows up and means it. You can tell, and that means at least that is the first sign that you should pay attention, and then you can determine whether or not it's any good. And that applies anywhere. My God, Star Trek novels, Star Wars novels, anything. It's an immediate difference between when that spark is there and when it's not. Aaron says, I've met multiple people who've told me they've lost their faith in seminary school, especially from translating the Bible. Well, if you put your faith in a book instead of in an inner calling, then it's vulnerable to being lost when the book is challenged. But looking at the history of Bible translation is the surest stake in the heart of the idea that this is divinely inspired. It is clearly the work of men, very fallible, sometimes very stupid men. It's clearly that. There's no way around it. There's no way to say. There's no way to hold on to any kind of inspiration or inerrancy once you study the text of the Bible. That's why the religious establishment in the West was so adamantly opposed to that for so long. Kevin J.N., I'm terrible at remembering authors' names, me too. But your interview with the writer of Athens was great. I read his book because of it. Yeah, that was a good. I wasn't thinking that he was going to be so modest. I had to draw him out on a whole bunch of things he was just being modest about. I think he liked that interview. Bruce Clark, I think was his name. I think he liked that interview because he talked about it a lot after that, and he did a lot of interviews for that book. I don't mean to toot my own horn, but that is not the first time where an author has gone either to me or to their publicist or to the publisher and said, Why can't every interview be like that? He knew what he was talking about. He was right there in the conversation with me. These weren't pat questions. He wasn't just winding me up and expecting me to fill his time for him. It was direct and engaging. It was a real conversation. I've had that from pretty much everybody who's responded to any interview I've done, and I very much value it. So I'm glad that you liked it. I'm glad that you did that. I always wonder if I am blurbed on the paperback of that book. I've never seen the paperback of it, if it had one in the U.S. Mac, but Paul's earliest letters make mention of knowing Peter and James. I'm not saying he was God, but surely he existed as a person. He's also mentioned by Josephus and either Tacitus or Suetonius. Uh, no, no, no. The God, the religious figure, is mentioned by those people, not the man. And also, brother in Christ, our brother in Christ, for God's sake, that is used today. Is that used by people who are genetic relatives of Jesus of Nazareth? No. What makes you think it was used that way then? And there is effectively no mention in Josephus, Tacitus, or Suetonius. They are all at best glancing references to a growing social phenomenon. That does not mean that does not mean that the figure at the center of that was real at all, right? I mean, 20 years ago, the equivalent of Josephus and Tacitus and Suetonius were also mentioning a gigantic social phenomenon called Harry Potter. It didn't make Harry Potter real. It's no, there is no actual, unless you want to move the goalpost just unbearably in terms of what constitutes historical proof. Paul is writing a religious doctrine about a figure he believes to be the son of the God of the universe. Does not count as historical at all. Nothing that he says counts. He has to be dismissed completely. And so does everything else in the Bible, which leaves you with other classical era sources. But where are they? Where are those sources? Where are the people who were living and writing in Jerusalem when apparently there's this gigantic mob all singing Hosanna to this one person? Where are the imperial people at the government palace in Caesarea who are writing about this? There aren't. There are tons of letters. There's not one mention from anybody of the person of, I saw him in the marketplace, or there's nothing like that isn't religious. And again, if this faith speaks to your heart, if it moves you on a personal level that you can't explain, that ought to be its reality to you. That was certainly true for Paul. That ought to be its reality for you. I'm not sure that you're coming to the question from a religious standpoint, but oftentimes when people ask me about this, they are. And I always want to say to them, well, what do you believe in? Do you believe in a Sunday liturgy? Do you believe in a bunch of books? Or do you believe in your God? They aren't the same thing. You shouldn't care about this, but you shouldn't twist what's there, for Pete's sake, especially not when we know what constitutes historical reality for someone. Jesus does not meet that criterion. He doesn't even come close. Street medic. Oh, sorry. Anyway, the crucifixion account can be explained as a hemopneumothorax, which is relieved by chest decompression, which could be done with a spear, but he would still appear dead even though he's alive. Oh, okay. Or it could be just it was made up. Right. That it was made up. Jesus would still be going strong after 3 days. It took people a long time to die of crucifixion. Street medic, damn, it's raining hard here. I don't know where here is. We're supposed to get rain later on. I think after the weekend. I think. Or maybe right at the weekend we're supposed to get rain. But I don't believe any forecast now. Today was supposed to be 80 degrees at most. It was 95. So, Andrew McDonald, I recently bought a box of one of your favorite periodicals, the Comics Journal. I started reading with Helen Ellison interview, which is a riot. Did you indeed? Might want to read some of the reviews. I hear some of them are quite funny. Mac, isn't it more likely from a secular perspective that his followers made up theological stories about him rather than random people making up a character out of thin air? Yeah, it is more likely that his followers embroidered stories about him rather than make up stories out of thin air. That is more likely. Right. So as a normal human supposition, that's entirely valid. That isn't the same thing as historical proof. There is no historical evidence of this guy. Sure, human nature is like that. They're more likely to embroider stories about a Jim Jones type character or a Charles Manson type character. They're more likely to embroider stories about someone like that than to make them up out of whole cloth. You're right about that. Fantasy Network, is Alzabo soup vegan or no? I don't even know what that is. I'm suspecting that you made it up. It sounds like a term out of one of your fantasy novels. Speaking of which, I haven't heard a peep out of you about NaNoWriMo. The last mention I heard from you is that you're not good enough to do it. But if I'm good enough to do it, you're good enough to do it. So what's your project going to be for NaNoWriMo? Monet Doyle, a national alert went over my phone. What was that about? Yeah, it was a national alert. It went out to millions and millions of phones. And the alt-right grifter circuit for the last week has been saying when that happens, don't do anything about it because it is designed to activate the vaccine in your blood and make you some sort of zombie. Who knows how many millions of people they had believing that. But it was just a kind of it's not the emergency broadcast system, but it's the equivalent. Just putting out a message to make sure that it works in case it's necessary. The conspiracy theorists are saying that it was done because something major is about to happen. I don't believe that. It's important to test these networks and make sure they exist, especially since not all of us are sitting in front of our television sets that's over in the corner of the living room every night. Once upon a time, that was universal, and radio before that. Now, the cell phone is the way to do that, so you have to put out a system once in a while. I saw, who was it? A YouTube commentator, Bo of the Fifth Column, I think it was, who made a very important point, something I hadn't thought of, which is that this is going to happen. This alert is going to go out, and it's going to work even if you have your phone on silent. So if you've got a second phone, if you're in a dangerous household, a dangerous situation, where if something really bad could happen to you, if the people around you knew that you had a hidden phone, be sure to turn it off. Turn your phone completely off. Otherwise, that alert is going to sound on the phones they can hear and one other phone that they might be able to find. That was a very good point to make. I completely spaced out on that. But that's all that it was. It wasn't anything. It wasn't about anything in particular. Jasper Antonelli, having Steve show up in class might ostracize me too much. I'm definitely excited for the assignment. Very interesting for a history class. I'm excited for it too. You must email me every step of the way. We must write a book review of the Makioka sisters. But you ought to float the idea past your teacher. Imagine how thrilled the angry incels in your class would be to have me talking to them. Imagine how thrilling that would be. I promise I would behave. I promise I would. Matt Sheridan, my Irish literature professor, is the son of a famous Oscar-winning actor from back in the 50s. Ooh, you can just drop that there and not give a name? What on earth? Ooh. Jasper Antonelli, I've got a dude bro friend who repeatedly asked me to help with making a cryptocurrency to make money because he refuses to learn to program and stop being gullible. Yeah. You may have to cut that friend loose. Unfortunately, it's going to get worse. Especially if two things are likely to happen in the immediate future, which will make it worse. One, of course, will make everything worse. If Trump seizes power, not if he's reelected, if he seizes power, well, then every dude bro in the world is going to feel validated. But also, if Andrew Tate dies, if news breaks before the end of the year that Andrew Tate is dead, that also will make dude bros a lot worse. It will set them off. So you might want to keep arm's distance there. The Fantasy Network, that's the charm on the show. It's random, but yes, I will email you. I assume it's here on your channel. Yes, I put it. I don't know. I always say I put email on every video, but I usually don't put them on live streams. But they're on 6,000 other videos. So it's just email. You'll be easy. It'll be easy to find. Yes, email me or Voxer me if you're on Voxer, and we can lay the groundworks. Get my people to talk to your people. Aaron, Be Wolf by Zach Wienerschmitz. It's delightful. I found something Steve hasn't read. Yes, you did. I have not read it. Although the Seamus Heaney translation of Beowulf will also work for a lot of those people. Maybe not the Lost Causes, but Aaron, give it to my nephew. Gave it to my nephew. Don't know what that's in reference to. That was not the flu. Jasper Antonelli is responding to Matt Sheridan. Street Medic, a post is a location where we wait for someone to call 911. That way we have ambulances scattered all over the city, cuts down response time. And you've got a little free library right there. Good for you. Jasper Antonelli, which recent, you were asking a question, something recent. Which recent, where are you? Oh, there we go. Last 100 years, presidents, do you think will be barely remembered? I think Ford and Carter are already there. Well, it's natural to single out the one-termers. Ford will be in the history books because he pardoned Nixon. Carter will be in the history books for being the last totally beloved man in the job, the last nonpartisan president. Barely remembered. It'll be the low-hanging fruit. All of the really big ones. Unfortunately, the last 100 years almost includes my beloved William Howard Taft, who will be remembered only because he's in the history books as the only person who was ever president and chief justice. But they're all big names. They all had pivotal points at one point or another. Uh, let's see here. DT, I thought you would cover this for Sumerian September, but can you speculate about the relationship between Conan and Dude Bro? Yeah, it's a little bit odd. I never did get to it, but it's a little bit odd. They love the Schwarzenegger movie, but they don't seem to know Howard's writing at all. They don't seem to. I think Howard is just too bookish. Not that his writing is all that bookish, but you have to be a book person to know about his books. To really, what is this? The stories, that sort of thing. It has a Schwarzenegger cinematic presence. That's all they need. Like I mean, they all worship Patrick Bateman, but I doubt that many of them have read American Psycho. Matt Sheridan is responding to Jasper Antonelli. Matt Sheridan is responding again. Jeffrey Clark, Steve, have you ever given a bad book review to an author that you interviewed? And if so, did you talk about it? And was it awkward? Usually, if I interview an author, I will not review their book. And usually, if I review their book, I won't interview them. If I know ahead of time, if I can time it ahead of time, I don't do that because they're radically different, and one compromises the other. I usually, a lot of times, I'd say not usually, but probably 70% of the time that I interview someone, I end up in correspondence with them. I end up being a friend of theirs. So I try to keep a barrier between the two. It's not always possible. Aaron, what is that spark in a good book that you're talking about? Can you describe it and give a few examples? I wish I could. You know it. You absolutely know it. I firmly believe that people do. And I think it's almost universal. I think when people dutifully praise something just because its author is, crippled and non-binary and neurodivergent and from Nigeria, when they're dutifully slogging through a virtue signaling recommendation of something like that, you can tell that it didn't move them at all. Not really, that it didn't move them at all. That they just think they feel good about feeling good about liking it or praising it or whatnot. But I don't even know. I don't know what an example would be. I ought to quantify this because this is a subject for an article or a column or even a book. Because I believe it explains what makes readers. I mean, everybody reads a little here and there, something, and some people read books. There's a subset of people out there who don't just read books, they love reading books. It's an active part of their life. Obviously, I'm talking to all of those people now, and I firmly believe that those people are going at this hobby that hard specifically for that feeling. I firmly believe that. They want to recapture that feeling. I think that's probably what explains why people so necrotically read and reread and re-rank and re-tier Stephen King, because they remember feeling that joy 3 decades ago. They're afraid to look elsewhere for it because it's dreary to go through all the examples that don't have it. So they want to just recapture that over and over again. It makes them completely blind to the fact that King never produced it in the first place. It was that they felt a connection to reading. That was all. Anyway, I'm not doing anything. I'm making things worse, aren't I? I don't know. You guess it. As an atheist, what do you appreciate, if anything, in religious texts? I guess the same might go for philosophy. Well, if there were anything to appreciate in philosophy, but there isn't. The religious texts can be beautiful. They often have a gravitational effect on poets, great prose writers. They often do. Also, if you're talking about the Christian church, for a long time it was the market. So even if it didn't exert a call on you, you would still go there to hawk your wares. So it can be really interesting to read. Matt Sheridan, I really liked your interview with the Bigfoot Museum guy. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. A whole bunch of other people in the Bigfoot community that I would like to talk to. A whole bunch of them. It's a question of winnowing out the ones who are good on camera. I don't want somebody just mulishly staring at me. I don't want a bad interview. I can now that I'm not doing these for an institution, I'm doing them for myself. I just don't want to put up with a bad interview. Uh, so I need to find somebody that's good on camera and that's also not crazy, because I'm not sure that I could tiptoe around that for 40 whole minutes. And those of you who are skeptical saying, well, if they're a Bigfoot guy, they will be crazy. That's not true. Let's not be condescending. The guy I interviewed uh, is not crazy at all. And there are plenty of other people I could do. I think about that all the time, that I should go back to that subject, either interview him again or find another person to interview. Um, Nicole, after the outline of the story is complete, do I determine a theme? Well, no, not necessarily. You can do without a theme. As long as you're entertaining your reader, you can do without a theme. But an outline might suggest something to you. You shouldn't play to it at all. Writers who play to themes are so boring. But you might want to note it. You might want to, be aware of it in a scene or two. Also, it's interesting just for you, just on a personal level. Okay, I've outlined this thing. I have built this story around this plot, these ideas that really draw to me. And now that I've done that, I'm noticing that I am particularly interested in books about justice or books about power. That will end up. You might do that, especially over the course of a few books. You might do that, look at that in that way, and say, I guess that is a theme of mine. But don't ever play to it. Don't ever construct your books around it. Uh, Jasper Antonelli, I cannot imagine studying a humanities, especially at the graduate level. You're brave, Matt Sheridan. Aaron, what did you think of the priest story in Dan Simmons' Hyperion? What about the poets? Specific chapters, specific threads in one book in the Stevestream? I like them. Is that good? Is that helpful? Mac, did David exist? No. Yeah, of course not. Archaeology has shown there was a King David. No, no. Archaeology has shown that there were King Davids, not the King David, not the King David who talks to God and who killed Goliath. That doesn't mean that the narratives in Kings are accurate. Most historians think Jesus was a very small figure. Okay, I don't know what that word small means. Uh, no, King David is a mythological construct. There are King Davids in King lists, sure. I might be willing to grant that. But that's not the same as King David, as the character King David. King David is Davy Crockett. He's Johnny Appleseed. It's all myth, and you pare it all away. There might be a real person down there somewhere, but it's mostly myth. So uh, the Bible is a collection of stories. It's not historical. Uh, Street Medic, I'm just saying that if he was historical, it can be explained without magic. Jesus is what you mean. Uh, I hope we're talking about Jesus and not David Foster Wallace. Uh, yeah, I don't know what the it means there. What can be explained without magic? But right, I, if if we're saying, isn't it more likely that his followers would build up stories about a real person than invent someone from whole cloth? Yeah, that is more likely. uh, Francisco, wow, it sounds so intriguing and fascinating. Thank you for sharing. I only hope we can read it in the near future. I absolutely love murder mysteries. Thank you again. Oh, you're talking about mine, The Body in the Garden Pond. Uh, uh, that reading guy says hello, but we're wrapping things up now that you're here. Max says, I'm a Christian, though. I love biblical scholarship, just not Jesus mythic IDK, which is fringe. Okay, I lost the thread of that comment. But I love biblical scholarship too. Oh my God. Absolutely love it. Aaron, what do you think of the argument that the story of Jesus is just a retelling of earlier demigod mythology? It bears too many similarities to ignore that argument. If, as been said earlier in this chat, if there was some guy, the stories that were built up around him were definitely built by people who used templates that were already there. Definitely. So if there was a guy, it hardly matters because they were still going to the David story and the Elisha story and whatnot. Uh, Michael Lombardo, is there a series in the vein of Gardner Dozois's yearly best science fiction available in 2023? There are a couple, but keep in mind the Gardner Dozois series. You say in the vein of. I think what you're nodding at is how brilliant they were, and they got more brilliant with time. 30 something an annual anthology that's edited by the same guy with the same vision for 30 something years. That's unheard of. And that is, as far as I know, not happening currently. You had Terry Carr do it for a long time. You had Don Waldheim and his wife do it for a long time. And you had Gardner Dozois do it brilliantly for a long time. If there's something happening now, it's maybe on its second volume. It's going to need a long time to grow that cachet. What's that? Hi, little baby. How are you doing? Are you getting sleepy? Oh, you are getting sleepy. Oh, goodness, baby. Oh, goodness. Hi there. Do you want to go to bed? You want to come down here? We're going to have to wrap up this Stevestream. I didn't realize. Oh, my God. Yeah, we've been going for 2 hours. Oh, my God. Yeah, we need to wrap up this Stevestream. The baby is getting tired. That's the ultimate dinner bell there. Time for me to take her out, arrange all my books, do a lot of writing. But let's finish up a few comments here. The Fantasy Network. Alzabo is the soup from the Book of the New Sun. Oh, right. Okay. And I'm considering NaNoWriMo, but don't have much in the way of ideas. Again, you could email, right? We could be in personal contact. We could be friends. There's a concept. I'd be happy to help. I bet you have some ideas. Alex Blair, I agree that historians like Josephus and Tacitus aren't much help in establishing Jesus' existence, but I think it's easier to explain the rise of Jesus movement if there really was a guy. Okay, sure. Yes, I agree. It's we're doing a lot of Jesus mysticism tonight. Yeah, I agree. It's easier to explain it that way. It also makes more human sense that way. That there was a guy, and that all of this is a kernel around that guy. Sure. It makes more it makes more sense to suppose that that is more in line with human nature. That is not proof, but that is true. Aaron got the Book of the New Sun reference. I did not. Oh, let's see here. Aaron, today's alert test annoyed me because it usually done at 1300 was done at 1320 today. Yeah, I missed it. I missed it completely. I think I was out with the bean when it happened, so I didn't even notice. We're going to have to blast through some comments. That's what we're going to have to do. Because there's a lot. There's a lot. Aaron is responding to the Fantasy Network. Geocraftsman, the presidential alert happened in class today right as the teacher was demonstrating a high-pitched tone in class. The noises blended together horrendously. It's a weird coincidence, isn't it? Aaron says, I gave Beowulf to my nephew. That's what I was referring to. Steve, you should try to interview the author. Yeah, I'd have to read the book first. Matt Sheridan, Ford should never pardon Nixon. I agree completely. B-roll books. Hello, Steve. I know you're partial to the 4th of July, but is there any chance for Christmas book starter kit? No. Aaron says, is responding to Matt. Aaron says, Steve, you were right when you told me not to annotate the Conan stories. They barely withstand it, but there are occasionally some really good lines. I agree. They don't. The ebooks do. The ebooks can take it all. Martin S., do you think any books in the Bible were written by women? No. Aaron, yes, Steve, write a book, even a short one, about that spark. I'd have to identify it first. I'd have to come up with terminology for it, which I've often been tempted to do because I always come back to this subject and I never have terminology for it. I'm just groping around. I get nods from people. They know what I'm talking about. They definitely know what I'm talking about, but I ought to put terms to it. DT, what do you like or dislike about George Lucas' Star Wars and Indiana Jones? I like the movies. I'm assuming I like how watchable they are. I dislike a lot about them, but I like how watchable they are. Jasper, the first novel that gave me that shock to make me into a reader was Charterhouse of Parma. Oh my, oh my. Before that, I had read on and off for years, but that experience transformed my free time. Yes, that's what that spark will do, because once you feel it, you want it back. And the point I want to make to all of you, the point I'm trying to make all the time to all of you, is that that spark has an exact equivalent when it comes to writing. And once you feel it, you will keep doing it. Anyway, DT, are they great movies for you? Oh, the George Lucas things. No. That reading guy, can you get that electric feeling from a bad book? You can. I worry about that. You can. Aaron, as long as the author is present, as long as the author is there and not phoning it in. Aaron, I remember that spark from a YA horror book that I read while stuck in bed after surgery. Look for Me by Moonlight. Why is that title familiar to me? Steve Bronstein, do you like Michael Pollan's books? No. Michael Lombardo, have a good reading night, Steve. Why, thank you. It will be pretty good. Aaron, Joe Rogan was in the Bigfoot community, interviewed him over elk steak at cigars. Now, I'm not going to talk to Joe Rogan. Pure poison. Aaron, on a semi-serious note, less Survivor man, Stroud believes in Bigfoot. Apart from that, I think you and he would have lots to talk about. Do you ever watch his show? I do not. That reading guy, how often do you memorize poetry or favorite passages from a new book? Never. A lot of them stick with me, but I don't memorize anything. No. Aaron, a member of my online writing group, told us that his MFA advisor requires them to keep a journal that he reads and responds to, and responses amount to indoctrination into identity politics. OMG. That's horrifying. That is horrifying. Is there anyone in that advisor's academic superstructure that you could report him to? Anybody that you could report him to? That is outside, that is totally unacceptable. Oh, oh man. Let's see here. Mac is responding to Aaron. Aaron is responding to Mac. Wyatt Thompson, for you, is that spark from a good book something separate from appreciation of its beauty? Yes. That is how I explain it to myself, as it seems similar to my reaction to beauty in painting / music, etc. No, it's more accustomed to the tuning fork vibration that you get when you encounter something you love, that you love. And I don't know about you, but there's plenty of music and paintings that I love that are not good. I love it. And that feeling isn't necessarily connected with the skill or the beauty of execution. No. Aaron, I don't think any new anthology series will build that Dozoir cachet. Media consumption is too fragmented. Yes, and also the editor who imposed his vision on such picks couldn't do it anymore. There's all sorts of political considerations now. You can't just say I like this, so it's going to be in my anthology. Gardner Dozoir would get raked over the coals for being a racist, a sexist, an Islamophobe, a transphobe, a colonialist, an imperialist, a cultural appropriator. If he had stayed alive, he would have shuttered that series voluntarily anyway by now. Aaron says 2 up on Steve in one stream, mentioned a book he doesn't know and got a reference he didn't. Yeah, I missed the Book of the New Sun reference. Max responding to Aaron. Aaron responding to Mac. Aaron, James Elroy had that spark. Don't know about his new stuff. It can go away. I haven't noticed it in a book of his in a little while, but he does have it. Yeah. Matt Sheridan, got to go for now. For now, good night and stay safe. Yes, I'm about to go as well. We're getting through these comments, then I am leaving. Mac, do you like Dale Allenson? He is highly critical of the traditional criteria, so I wonder if you like him. I don't think I know him well enough to like him or not like him. Aaron is responding to, Mac is responding to Aaron. Aaron says, regarding that MFA advisor, I advised our friend to tell the guy that what he wants to hear, get close to him, and document more egregious abuses because he sounds like a malignant narcissist. Yeah, although if his instructions about your writing journal are written, and I'm assuming they were, screenshot them, photocopy them, whatever you have to do, and start the process. The way to package it to anyone who has control of him, provided you know that they're sane and not ideologically captured themselves, is to frame it by saying that he is spreading anti-Semitic nonsense. And then when they're horrified, say, it's not anti-Semitic nonsense, it's this instead. And my point in saying that it was anti-Semitic nonsense was to underscore the fact that he should not be ideologically indoctrinating anyway on any subject. That's not what this is at all. It's unacceptable no matter what it is. But anyway, Mac, who's your favorite DS9 character? That would be Jadzia Dax. That reading guy, Goodnight Bean and Deb. Oh, you too, Steve. No Deb here. Hoping to get a Manatee Monday this week sometime. Friday, maybe. Michael Lombardo, take your doggy out for a pee as well. She could sleep all night. She barely has any biological needs. My little baby does. But look at this. We got to the end of the comments, and it's pretty much 10 past the hour. You scoffers. And we never did talk about, not much, about what you're doing for NaNoWriMo. We talked about what I'm doing, but not what you're doing. Uh, and I want to know, what are you writing for NaNoWriMo? You are not off the hook. You have to prep in October for NaNoWriMo. Anyway, Mac, good night. I won't ask about you know who again. Oh, you can ask about you know who all you want. Absolutely, that was a ball. If you mean Jesus, if you mean Jack the Ripper, then yeah, absolutely, don't bring it up again. Lou G, I'll be keeping my eyes on the comments after this video post. The carnivore people will be coming for you. Yes, they will be. I'll be able to smell their breath a mile away, though, so it will be easy to detect them. But uh, I do have to wrap this up. This was wonderful. Oh my God, this was wonderful. But I have to go. I've got to tend to my bean. I've also got to do a lot of writing. I've got 3 hours to go. I've got to cram a lot of writing into that time period. This was wonderful. I learned a lot, but I'm going to have to go. So I'll wrap this up for now, and I will see you all next time. Thank you, Bootu.